8th round of the 2003 Champ Car season took place in the land of homeless drug addicts and pretentious trendy millennial hipsters, Portland, Oregon. It being the Northwest, rain was a big factor throughout the weekend. A fair amount of practice and qualifying was rain affected, with the potential of showers even during the race. However, it was the always bombastic Paul Tracy that stole the headlines throughout the weekend. I just have to read some of the quotes that he riffed off to the media this weekend. Well, I've got one thing to say to all these would-be race car drivers. You shouldn't throw stones if you live in a glass house. And if you got a glass jaw, then you should watch your mouth. This next one's in reference to an incident where Tracy impeded Ryan Hunter-Reay during qualifying. RHR's later disqualification from that qualifying session for running underweight, along with a nice jab after Michelle Jourdain Jr.'s disqualification in Laguna Seca. Well, I don't know what happened with Ryan, but it doesn't really matter because he was cheating. And on the subject of cheating, did Rahul's car pass tech yesterday? I'm not sure if he passed it or not. Then after grabbing the pole position, he said this: "That's a message to all these naysayers down the pit lane that PT is for shizzleman is all. I'm gonna show Jourdain who's the boss applesauce." You know, considering my root canals forced me to eat applesauce and other non-solid foods for the next week, I'm thankful that Paul Tracy said that quote 20 years ago. It got a laugh at me, which is good considering what's been going on as of late. And finally, we have the most gangster quote of them all right before the race. Well, the only thing that really matters to me is what my guys here think. And to me, all that matters is that my money comes in heaps and the kids love me in the streets. Love him or hate him, Paul Tracy was and still is a funny dude. Sure, he's a couple french fries short of a Happy Meal, but I'm a dried cherry short of a fruitcake, so do I really have any room to judge? One thing that I've neglected to mention so far is the silly season news. That's surprising because yet again we have a lot to cover. But instead of doing this normally, I'm going to do what I was meant to do last week. I was meant to get a cavity filling done on Monday, October 16th, but all I got was the news I actually need a root canal. So 1 week later than originally expected, I'm going to fulfill this promise. It's the afternoon of October 23rd as I record this audio, and in about 3 hours time I'll be back from the endodontist with my mouth still completely numb, my eyes filled to the brim with tears thanks to the $1,200 bill, and my loins girded well enough to finally bring you the lidocaine silly season report. Whatever divine entity there is looking over this planet must have some kind of objection to this bit because while recording that lead-in, the lawn care people came and started mowing the lawn. I'd usually wait and record after they leave, but I have to get to this appointment in less than an hour and a half. But anyways, grab a soft blanket, light a scented candle, and prepare to laugh your ears off for what I hope will be the funniest minute in the history of this channel. The doctors only numbed half of my face, so they're gonna be half as funny as I expected it to. In the midst of the West Coast swing for the Champ Car Series, there were even more driver shuffles. We'll get the expected one out of the way first. At PK Racing, Max Pappas was now in that seat for the rest of the season. Brian Herta, who had driven for the team in Laguna Seca, was just a one-off while Max had other obligations to attend to. Meanwhile, at the wonderful world of Dale Coyne Racing, Quattro Salas was back at the team. He had previously replaced Alex Young and was now replacing Swiss driver Joel Camathias. The Dale Coyne lineup was now completely different, with Jeff Boss and Quattro Salas completing their lineup, at least for now. Camathias and Young weren't covered too much in the series, but I've already made videos going over Young and Camathias' respective Champ Car careers. Now if you excuse me, I'm off to eat applesauce for the next 3 days, and also schedule my appointment for putting in the crown. Am I sick for making myself do this? Maybe, but is it going to be funny? I fucking hope so. As I briefly mentioned a few moments ago, it would be Paul Tracy grabbing the pole position. Championship leader Michelle Jourdain Jr. would join him on the front row. Quattro Salas would be your 19th and last place starter. It was a bad qualifying result for Bruno Junqueira, who'd start the race in 11th. With everything taken care of, we can get to the start of the race. For the second race in a row, we'd have a waved off start. Any more of those and we might need to make a drinking game out of it. This was off the back of the year prior that saw 4 attempts at a start, but that's a topic for another day. Coming around for take 2 and another false start. Maybe if we actually made a drinking game, the alcohol would help with my tooth pain. Well, third time's a charm, right? Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Take 4 this time, and let's grab the green for the love of Christ. The green flag would fly in with a surprisingly clean start as Michelle Jourdain Jr. grabbing the lead, Oriol Servia taking the turn 1 detour, and I believe Rodolfo Levin going for some lawn mowing on exit. For the first 10 laps, really the biggest story of note was a gearbox issue for Tiago Montero, an issue which took him out of the race. However, once we broke past the lap 10 barrier, things started to heat up. Sebastian Bourdais, who was running in 4th, had a left rear tire going down, so by lap 14, the Frenchman came in. This was shortly followed by a spin off the road and subsequent stall for Jeff Boss, which would bring the yellow out. Right after this came the first series of pit stops, where not a lot changed as it was Michel Jourdain Jr. holding onto the lead. Meanwhile, things got worse for Dale Coyne, as Walter Salas, who had developed an oil leak in the first stint, was forced to pull off the track because of that issue. The restart came and not a whole lot happened after this besides Bourdais cutting through the field and Ryan Hunter-Reay falling out of the race with a clutch issue. Besides those two things, not a whole lot was going on as most of the field paced themselves and wore away the laps. But just short of the halfway mark, things really started to heat up again. As the pit stops neared, Paul Tracy was slowly reeling in Jourdain. The gap was down to about a second and a half when the two came into the pits. Tracy would take less fuel and grab the lead just barely over his rival. But just a lap after they nearly made contact on pit road, the two would come to blows going through the chicane. It was a dive from Michel Jourdain Jr. that got them side by side. Then they bottlenecked into two, locked wheels, and Jourdain was spun around. Jourdain needed to get restarted, and the yellow was back out. The restart came on lap 47 with Paul Tracy in the lead. Things cooled off yet again, but still wasn't all that boring. That's good for me because even if I liked coffee, I don't think I can drink it until I put my crown in. Well, there was some drama going on, as Paul Tracy picked up a 5-second penalty for the pit road chicanery with Jourdain. He'd serve this at the next pit stop, and surprisingly, Tracy came back out with a lead, but only by about a second. This gave the lead to Sébastien Bourdais for just one lap before he came in too. The topic of weather was slowly becoming a big talking point, but ramped up quite a lot after Patrick Carpentier had a hard crash in turn 6. Carpentier would be alright but was out of the race. The rain was still lingering come time for the restart, but wasn't hard enough to bring anyone in. However, it was damp enough for Jeff Boss to lose his rear wing and bring out the full course caution. I'd love to tell you what happened, but CBS never showed a replay. They also missed the restart, which at this point doesn't make me nearly as angry as it should. Thankfully, what they didn't miss was Adrian Fernandez making the pass for the lead. They also didn't miss this turn 1 shindig between Rodolfo Levin and Max Pappas, which ended in Pappas retiring from the race with a broken right front. The 6th yellow came out to retrieve the broken car, with the restart coming with 10 laps left. The attention was set to be on the battle at the front, but it wasn't much of a fight. Besides an issue for Sébastien Bourdais which took him out of the race, the late race shootout was more of a poetry reading. After leading just 15 laps on the day, Adrian Fernandez would take the checkered flag to score his 8th Champ Car win, and his first in Surfers Paradise in 2000. In doing so, Fernandez became the first owner-driver to win a Champ Car race since Bobby Rahal won at Nazareth back in 1992. Paul Tracy would finish in second, taking the championship lead in the process, while Alex Tagliani would come home in third. That race was actually pretty solid. It wasn't the most exciting of them all, but in reference to all the races I've covered so far this series, it's pretty good. I don't have much else to say other than that. Next up is Cleveland, and we'll be racing under the lights. That's gonna be pretty cool. I'm genuinely excited for that race. If you are too, then you know where to be for that race review in a week's time. Before I round this video off, I just want to thank all of you for all the nice comments you left on community posts a few weeks ago. My tooth is still a little sore and my mouth hurts a little bit from recording this audio, but really nothing that a bit of Advil can't fix. The first week in November is when I'll probably be getting the crown put in, and after that this fustercluck of a situation will be in our rearview mirror. But seriously, thank you all for the support, it really means a lot to me. Thank you all for watching, and have a great afternoon.